Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show.
Jacqueline Fernandez in a close relationship with conman Sukesh Chandrashekhar is part of a probe into a 200 crore extortion case.
There were one by one lakhs of rupees of gifts, if not more, that were being showered on Jacqueline Fernandez by this conman Sukesh Chandrashekhar. Fresh counter allegations in the Sukesh Chandrashekhar.
सुकेश चंद्रशेखर और धोखाधड़ी के इस मामले में बॉलीवुड एक्ट्रेस जैकलिन फर्नांडिस की मुश्किलें और बढ़ सकती हैं. ईडी ने कहा.
Anand, how would you describe Sukesh Chandrashekhar to someone who has never heard of him?
So I saw Sukesh for the first time when he turned up at the NIA court at Patiala House.
This is Indian Express's Anand Mohan. He reports on crime and courts for the Indian Express.
And he had turned up with armed guards who were escorting him. He's pretty flamboyant, to say the least. He had a orange sweater on. He's of a medium height. He has cropped hair and a medium-length beard. 3 to 4 of his fingers are missing on his left hand because he had been involved in an accident when he was much younger. Sukesh is quite an articulate young man. He, in fact, walked up to the judge with a lot of confidence and he started addressing his own arguments while he was in court.
Despite his own lawyer being there?
Despite his lawyer being there, he took the role of the lead counsel and his lawyer stood back while he started to level allegations of mistreatment by Tihar jail officials. He, in fact, spoke like a lawyer, was very serious, and the judge did hear him out. And in 2 minutes, Sukesh managed to convince the judge to pass an order to conduct an inquiry on his allegations, and the court had called for an order. So that's Sukesh in a nutshell.
And what is the reason that we are talking about him right now?
So Sukesh has pretty much unleashed a vortex which threatens to sort of like destroy the career of several leading Bollywood stars, including Jacqueline Fernandez and Nora Fatehi. He has managed to extort over 217 crores by Anwiti Singh, who is the wife of Shivinder Singh. And he managed to then fund an extravagant lifestyle for himself at Tihar jail, where lawyers have said that he was living the life of a governor. So what he pulled off is quite impossible, to say the least.
For more than 2 years now, Anand has been tracking Sukesh's case for the paper. Today on the show, we will be talking to him about how this alleged con man managed to pull off this seemingly impossible scam, the details of which have shocked almost everyone involved. Now, back to our conversation with Anand. Okay, so earlier you mentioned a bunch of things, but now let's take a step back. Where does the story of Sukesh Chandrashekhar begin?
So Sukesh, he dropped out when he was in class 10th. He tried to dabble in the real estate sector for a while, but then his real love was car racing, and it was cars basically. He was just gravitated towards it at a very young age. This was around the time when he started to have dreams of becoming a millionaire. His first case that we could see was registered when he cheated a Bangalore-based resident of 1.5 crores. Eventually, he started to get involved in a string of cases over the next 2 to 3 years where he started to pose as the son of Karnataka or Tamil Nadu-based politicians, who chief ministers at the time, and he would hire security guards. Even his security guards did not know that he was an imposter.
So his security guards believed that he was actually the son of a politician.
Yes, and he even managed to convince them to water down their salary. They were supposed to be paid 30,000 rupees, but he paid them 10,000 rupees by imposing that persona on them. And since Sukesh had watered down their salaries, one of these bodyguard went and filed a case against Sukesh.
Right, and when we look at Sukesh's story, so much of how he managed to allegedly con people was because of this image, right? Because of surrounding himself with things and people that showed him to be powerful.
Yeah, so if you sort of like look at this string of cases that in which Sukesh was made and accused, this is sort of like what he keeps managing to pull off again and again as per the investigators. Basically convinces people that he's going to sell them an expensive luxury car with an added bonus of a red beacon. At the time, that's a symbol of status at the time. Not only that, he had even duped his own landlord under the pretext of selling a Scorpio car. So he sort of like was involved in all of these cases.
Right, and a lot of these scams that we are talking about, he managed to do them with the help of his partner, this woman named Leena Maria. So talk about her a bit.
So Leena was basically someone who was born in Kerala. She belongs to Kerala. She was trained as a dentist, but started nursing ambitions of breaking into the local, the South film industry. Around 2009, she got sort of like her first break with Malayalam superstar, Mohanlal's movie Red Chillies.
ഒരു രാവണൻ ജനിച്ചാൽ ഒരു രാവണൻ ജനിച്ചിരിക്കണം. കടല് കടന്നൊരു ദിവസം രാവണനെ തേടി രാമൻ വരും. വരണം.
This was sort of like around the time when she first met Sukesh at the Taj Connemara. She's trying to make contacts, trying to meet people, and in walks Sukesh, makes an impressive entrance where he walks in, with bodyguards, gets off an expensive car fitted with a red beacon, everything. He introduces himself as the son of a big-time Tamil Nadu politician. Leena at the time had told the investigators that she did not doubt that he was not the son of a politician because he had an impressive caste around him. And they started dating soon after that. They started to meet some important figures in the Tamil Nadu entertainment industry. They met actors, they met local entertainers, dancers. So they were like moving at a breakneck speed, their relationship. And then one day, suddenly, Sukesh just vanishes into thin air.
Right, and we understand that this actually came as a big shock to Leena. When does she meet him next, after he vanishes?
So all this time, Leena was under the impression that my boyfriend's name is Balaji, a Tamil Nadu politician, and then he's vanished. So she tries to desperately look for him. At this time, she was pregnant, is what she told the investigators, so she was trying to desperately look for Sukesh. And eventually, a common friend of them told them that Sukesh was lodged in Madurai jail. So what sort of happened was that Sukesh had allegedly cheated a cinema owner in Madurai at the promise of installing some really great sound systems. And the sound systems never turned up. And this cinema theatre manager spotted Sukesh one day by chance, gets infuriated, goes up to Sukesh, and they have a fight. So Sukesh tries to strangulate him. This is what police records show. And once that happens, he's arrested. He goes to jail. Leena turns up at jail. Sukesh tells her that he has been arrested because of a political conspiracy, because there are people from the DMK party who were after him, and that was a small case. Then he asked her to get in touch with his lawyer. They showed them the FIR, and then the FIR showed that it was like a minor case. So she was under the impression that, that probably he's been arrested because of a political rivalry.
And at this point, does she come to know that he's actually Sukesh and not Balaji, the son of a politician?
So when she met him in jail, Sukesh comes clean, and for the first time, he tells her that his name is Sukesh.
Right, and despite finding out that he's not who he says he is, she doesn't really distance herself from him. In fact, later, they get married, right?
Yeah, so, around the next few years, Leena starts to feature in 2-3 other films. And this is around the time when the investigators claim that Leena became a part of Sukesh's syndicate, the crime syndicate. So Sukesh's syndicate is made up of a rotating cast of people that, that he just keeps changing his accomplices. But Leena eventually becomes a mainstay, and they start to play the role of the boss and secretary. Sukesh would pose as an IAS officer, Leena his secretary. They would go around duping people under the pretext of offering them government contracts. They try to cheat a bank, or offering them a government tender. They try to cheat another person under the pretext of giving them a contract for school uniforms. Then they tried to allegedly come up with a Ponzi scheme where they cheated 450 investors. So it's also a hectic time for the both of them, because Leena has been traveling to Tamil Nadu, to Kerala for her shoots, and Sukesh is also sort of like traveling around the country. So it's a fast life for the both of them.
Okay, now let's talk about the biggest scam that Sukesh has been involved in. The one where he allegedly duped Anwiti Singh of 217 crore rupees. How did he manage to do that?
Yeah, so Sukesh had managed to find out that Shivinder Singh, who's the former promoter of Fortis, was in jail in a money laundering case. He also figured out that he and his family were under extreme stress because they were not getting any sort of relief from the courts. So what Sukesh did was that he allegedly used a spoofed calling app through which he could impersonate any phone number in the country. You can use international numbers, what have you. So he posed as a MHA official, calls up Aditi, speaks with a lot of confidence, signs off with Jai Hind, whatnot, tells her that, that we know about this case, and strikes a deal to sort of like extort money in several installments under the promise of giving her relief. keeps making promises, keeps taking this money, and eventually Aditi is forced to, ask her children's relatives for money. They start selling their jewelry. She has to make excuses to her relatives that because of her high legal fees. And Sukesh at this time was posing as multiple people and calling her up. And then he starts to impose tremendous pressure on her. And eventually she parts with 217 crore. And Sukesh managed to pull this off sitting inside a jail with a few mobile phones.
Okay, so this entire time that he's extorting this huge amount of money, he does that while being in jail.
Yeah, he was in jail when he was doing this, which is why it's a fascinating story.
And what was he in jail for at that point?
He was basically in jail for paying a bribe to election commission officials because he had at this time the AIADMK, there were two factions. They were fighting over the two-leaf symbols. Jayalalitha had passed away at the time and they were fighting for the identity of the party, and TTV Dinakaran, who at the time wanted that symbol, he had promised him that I'm going to help you get that symbol. He was in jail for that.
AIADMK पार्टी का सिंबल दोबारा हासिल करने के लिए 50 करोड़ रुपए में शशिकला के भतीजे दिनाकरन से डील करने का आरोपी सुकेश चंद्रशेखरन दिल्ली पुलिस की गिरफ्त में.
And in all my years of crime and court reporting, we have seen instances where, crimes are committed, conspiracies are hatched from the jail. You have the example of gangsters who are able to pull this off, where they call hits on other people from the jail, and police have also worked on these gangs quite extensively, and it's all a part of public records, But Sukesh posing as different MHA officials and speaking, and he's managed to target this woman is just quite something.
Now, when we talk about this 217 crore rupees case, this is how several of these Bollywood actresses get involved. Actresses like Jacqueline Fernandez and Nora Fatehi. Talk about how they feature in the story.
Right. So to understand how all of them feature, we need to talk about a mysterious character in the story. She has different names depending on who she's meeting. Angel, Afreen, has an impressive resume, talent agencies in LA, Dubai, what have you, So Pinky Irani was sort of like introduced to Sukesh around 2017. She has told the investigators that they met on Instagram, whereas the Enforcement Directorate has very recently said that she knew a co-accused in jail and she had met him through that. Sukesh and Irani were in contact, where Sukesh kept asking Pinky Irani to help him connect with several actors and models. And then Sukesh sort of like started to tell Irani that he wanted to meet Jacqueline Fernandez.
Jacqueline Fernandez, model, TV presenter, beauty queen, actor, philanthropist,
yes.
Speaker of 6 or 7 languages? What's the actual figure then?
Now, Fernandez at this time was bagging one big project after another, right? She was pretty much at the high of her career. And she just kept getting these phone calls from a spoof number where this person just kept telling her that he is her biggest fan and he wants to meet her. And she just didn't think much of it. Her hairstylist, Shan Mutalil, he was contacted by Irani. Both of them met at JW Marriott Hotel in Mumbai. And Irani had introduced Sukesh as the owner of Sun TV, several media organizations, as a billionaire with a net worth of $10 billion, as a fan who wants to produce her films, make her career, all of that. But Shan and Jacqueline, they didn't really pay much heed to it.
Yeah, it makes sense because Jacqueline is a big star. So initially she didn't even pay any attention to Sukesh or Irani.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably imagine that there may be hundreds of fans who probably try to reach out to her, try to contact her, want to probably meet with her. So obviously she did not think much of it. This is what the investigators have told us. But a spoof phone call from Home Minister Amit Shah's office changed everything. Shan Mutalil was contacted by this MHA official who said that Sukesh is a big man in the government. We need him. You should help him out. Jacqueline at this time was still under the impression this is probably a prank.
Yeah, and at one point Sukesh even tried to give her a Bentley, but she thought it was just a joke and she didn't believe him.
Yeah, so Sukesh, it's a recurring pattern. If you look at every single person, is just the same thing, that a promise of a luxury car, and that's what he tried to promise her, that a luxury car, I want to gift you a Bentley, I want to help produce your movies. So the both of them started interacting with each other, okay. Sukesh would speak to her through video calls where he would be dressed in designer wear, right? He would never repeat this designer wear. Every single day a different designer wear. But the place from which he would call was the same. It was a corner of a room with the same curtains. And Jacqueline would ask him, why are you calling from the same place? So he would say that the Wi-Fi is really bad, so I have to call from here. I'm extremely disappointed with where I live. I wish this place had good Wi-Fi, you know. And
this, of course, was a place inside the jail.
This is in Tihar. So the both of them start talking to each other. Then Sukesh then promises her that, you know, that Malabar Jewelers, which is like, it's big in the south, that they want to make her the brand ambassador, and he's spoken to them, right? And her talent agency was just waiting for this contract to materialize. It just never came. And then the owner of Malabar Jewelers did call Shan Mutalil and said that we want Jacqueline as the brand ambassador. It's a done deal. They paid 15 lakh rupees as a contract, and they were under the impression that Jacqueline is the brand ambassador of Malabar Jewelers. The investigation has found that this was Sukesh, who posed as the Malabar Jeweler owner and has made this phone call. So it started off, they became really good friends when the business contract started to materialize. Around this time, something quite significant had happened, which is why Jacqueline now finds herself as an accused in the Enforcement Directorate case. Shan Mutalil had found a news report on Leena which said that a lookout circular has been issued against her. And the article also contained all the criminal antecedents of Sukesh. So Jacqueline sent a message to Shan saying that, have you seen this? And who is this girl that they're talking about? Leena, right? Who is this girl that they're talking about? A row ensues between Sukesh and Jacqueline Fernandez on Valentine's Day 2021. They fight over this. Sukesh calls up Pinky Rani, offers her 10 crore rupees to sort out differences, offers her 2 crore rupees to pay some guy in Google to take out that news report. Pinky Rani then allegedly turns up at Fernandez's home with a Tiffany diamond ring inscribed J and S. She tried to tell him that, you should speak to him. And like we discussed in the past, Sukesh owns up to the fact that he's in jail over a political rivalry. And he talks about the 2 symbol case, about how he's made a target of a political rivalry. He starts to cry. He starts to talk about his father's health, about his family. And Jacqueline tells the investigators that she believed in him because she was brainwashed by Irani. And they decide to talk again. And this is when the extravagant lifestyle sort of like goes on to a new level.
And by this you mean the sheer number of things that Sukesh gifted to Jacqueline.
Yeah, so this is the time when he starts to splurge gifts on her. He tries to buy her bracelets, designer bags, diamond earrings, and this is all top brands. Then watches, shoes, a Versace crockery set, buys her a horse.
A horse?
A horse named Espiola, from the Mahalakshmi racecourse in Mumbai for 57 lakh. He pays few more lakhs to get that horse registered and, then buys her like 4 Persian cats. He also paid 15 lakh rupees to a scriptwriter so that they can produce a web series for her. Then he sent money to her sister in the US, her brother. He tries to maintain contact with her family, where he gifted 2 top-of-the-line luxury cars to her family, to her parents in Bahrain.
And just to be clear, all of this is happening when Jacqueline has not even met Sukesh, right?
All of this is happening when they haven't met. And finally, Sukesh comes out on interim bail. He's been on interim bail on many occasions, right? So he comes out of jail and then he invites Jacqueline to Chennai, flies her out first class, like in a private jet into Chennai, where he meets her. And they meet under the pretext that they're going to attend his uncle's funeral. And Jacqueline thought that this is the time when I'm going to meet his family for the first time. Except that meeting never materialized. That funeral, that never took place. Jacqueline and Sukesh took a ride around the city, court records show. They were followed by 2 Range Rovers, which had 15 guards. And Jacqueline asked about, when do we go for the funeral? And Sukesh comes up with an excuse that, as per our local traditions, we conduct funeral rituals in the night and not in the day. And Sukesh manages to convince Jacqueline that this was the case. They met once more under similar circumstances. They met just twice.
And is he doing all of this just to get close to Jacqueline?
Yeah, so, we've had photographs which were then eventually released to the media, which shows them in being a little intimate with each other. Jacqueline has, of course, denied all of this, but Sukesh maintains that he was in a relationship with Jacqueline for a short period of time that they were together.
Okay, and Jacqueline is one actress that features in the story. But then there are other actresses as well that he sent gifts to. So talk about them.
So the second name that we feature is that sort of like comes up is Nora Fatehi.
Hey guys, it's me Nora Fatehi, and I'm going to be showing you guys an exact detailed tutorial of my hook step from the song Kusu Kusu, the Kusu Kusu hook step, and I'm going to show you
right. And Nora was invited to an event in Chennai. She was under the impression that she's going for a charity event. So she turns up at Chennai, she sees Leena with her family members. They turn up with content creators, with a whole band of people carrying champagne, a cake. After the event, they offer her a luxury car. They say that, that we want to buy a car for you. Nora was of the view that, that this is a bit weird. That nobody offers a top of the line 3-4 crores car. No one's going to really offer. She asks the people that around that she's with us that is this normal? So they say that, yeah, this is normal. But Fatehi had told investigators that it was not a good look taking a car. So she said that, that you guys have been extremely generous. So here's what I'll do for you. I will promote your event. Free, of course. I'm not going to charge for that. Because they had gifted her an iPhone and a Gucci bag. She said, I'm not going to take money. But they kept insisting, please take this car. The organization which hosted this event, a man kept calling her up, kept saying that, I'm from this organization and we love you and we want you to have this car. So Nora was like, okay, I don't need the car, but a cousin of mine probably needs it. So she hands over the contact of her cousin, and her cousin is in touch with this person. And eventually the cousin and this person, they start striking deals of making movies together and getting into business with each other.
Yeah, and you write that later Irani contacts Nora's cousin who got the car. And she tells her that Sukesh wants to be in a relationship with Nora. How does her family react to this?
So her family is extremely enraged by this, and then they say that they're going to go to the police if they keep this up, and eventually her cousin sells this car off to a third party because they were at the time facing some financial problems. And that's why Nora Fatehi's name cropped up, because this is a proceed of crime. She's not an accused in this case. We must be very diligent with these facts. Nora is in fact turned a witness against Sukesh in the EOW case. She's aiding the investigators in the EOW case.
And what about Jacqueline?
Jacqueline has turned a witness in the EOW case, but right now she's facing a trial in the ED case. Arguments on charge are underway in that.
Right, and so far we have talked about Jacqueline and Nora, but Sukesh also tried to do the same things with actresses Janhvi Kapoor and Sara Ali Khan. And again, he's doing all this while being in jail. And now the other thing that really stands out in this case is that there were some actresses that even met him inside the jail premises. So how did he manage to do that?
So the Enforcement Directorate has named several actresses, right? Out of them, 3 of them, their names have cropped up in the charge sheet. They're Chahat Khanna, Nikita Tamboli, Sophia Singh, and a 4th actress who's a model who never met him in jail, but she took 5 lakh rupees for him just to sort of like, because they just spoke to each other, right? So all of these actresses were contacted by Irani. Irani, the same things promised them a lucrative career. They said that they're going to meet a brazen, like this bad boy billionaire who's interested in producing like a web series for them, and she pays for their flight tickets. So these guys are flown in from Mumbai and they come into Delhi. Delhi, waiting for them is a BMW car right outside the airport. So they board this car. There's Irani who sits there, talks to them, tells them that we're going to meet this big bad billionaire, and then they turn up at Tihar jail. Some of the actresses start crying. They start panicking that why are we going to Tihar jail? And then Irani manages to convince them that that this is a bureaucrat cell. It's not Tihar jail, which houses heinous criminals. So they enter through gate number 3. Waiting for them is a cherry Innova car. So they sit in this Innova car and it takes them to this area. And this area sort of like has a lot of lawyers and policemen. There's like a big crowd. There's like a lot of hustle bustle. This is like the place where lawyers sort of like come to meet their clients and stuff, right? And then they go and they wait in the first floor office. In the first floor, there's an office. You have 2 armed guards standing outside. You have like a waft of perfume emanating from the room. So these actresses were under the impression that Sukesh at the time was not in jail. Why? Because once you enter the room, it's not an office to say the least. Many of the people who visited in jail and many of the investigators have told us that the jail was better than the superintendent's office.
And for our listeners, could you just describe what this room actually looked like?
So it has a 100-inch LED screen which screams at visitors when you enter. It's hooked to a PlayStation, an Apple Bluetooth speaker, you have a sofa, you have a recliner, you have an AC, you have a cooler, you have a Versace watches, you have Gucci bags, you have Christian Dior, everything, And in middle of it, you have Sukesh draped in designer clothes, glides himself into the conversations, eases them, makes them sit, talks to them about how he's interested in their career, how he's a big fan of them. And then he starts to talk about their personal lives. For example, in the case of Chahat Khanna, Sukesh, so Khanna is married and Sukesh knew about this. So then he tapped her husband's phone and he said that, that it's not a good match for you. You should divorce him. I'll give you some lawyers. Give you some lawyers' contact, proposes to her, tells her that, he wants to be with her.
Yeah, and he does similar things with others who also visit him in jail. So he must have been able to do that with the help of the authorities and workers who are employed at the jail, right?
Yeah, he had armed guards and everything, and the lawyers for many of the accused are saying the same thing. One, they say that ordinary person who has never been inside a jail will not know that this was a jail, will not know that he was under custody. And they're of the view that, that a lot of these Tihar staffers had helped them, and they're also under investigation as we speak. That's the sort of life that Sukesh was living inside this first floor office, where he met all of these models and actresses and just trying to convince them to be friends with them. Eventually, he also told them that he was under investigation. There's something that is done in every other case. And the same excuse as usual, that he is under investigation for a political rivalry and that he's going to be out on bail just in 4-5 days. And then he pays them 3 to 4 lakh rupees, all of them who met him, and designer bags. And yeah.
Okay, and could you talk about what are the charges that have been filed against Sukesh so far?
So Sukesh, like I said, is facing an extortion case, which is the main case in the EOW case, right? This is for extorting Anwiti Singh. The second case that he faces is funding this extravagant lifestyle through a money laundering operation through which he funded the lifestyle. He paid expensive gifts for all of these actresses and led an extravagant lifestyle inside Tihar jail. So these are the two main cases that he's facing. We've seen that there are over 30 FIRs which have been registered against him. He has not been convicted in a single case so far. Trial is underway in all of these cases. In the present case, arguments on charge have been completed. He has basically said that Anwiti Singh should be investigated because she basically paid him a bribe to get her husband relief. And we've now found out that RFL, where the Singh brothers used to work at, they were former promoters. So RFL has now moved a court saying that we should file a case against Shivinder Singh, his brother, both their wives, because they tried to bribe Sukesh to get them out of jail. Sukesh right now has, to say the least, has painted himself into a corner because there's just increased scrutiny. The spotlight is on him. He's in Mandoli jail right now along with his wife. The new DG Prisons has taken over and his predecessor was sort of like he was relieved from his position because of allegations that Sukesh had made. Sukesh now spends his time reading newspapers. He's an avid reader of newspapers and he loves reading legal news, especially Supreme Court and High Court judgments. He likes to read up on that. He likes to stay abreast with the latest news. And he now writes letters to the media through his lawyer. He has recently been targeting the Arvind Kejriwal government and Satyendra Jain. So as we know, Satyendra Jain is in jail in a separate corruption case. So he's now started making allegations that he gave money to Satyendra Jain as protection money. In fact, a lot of these letters he wrote during the MCD elections. We must also be mindful of the timing. And he says that, that he can't watch television. He wants to play badminton. He wants to play Ludo.
And this is what he's demanding right now?
These are his demands right now, and they're legitimate demands because every inmate is allowed to do that. We must be mindful that our jail systems have to be rehabilitative rather than retributive, And those are legitimate demands, and the court has in fact agreed to these demands because the court said that yes, that the court said that instead of conducting an inquiry against the jail staffers who were allegedly discriminating him, the jail staffers had transferred him to a new jail and lodged him with a transgender inmate along with in a cell which has hardened criminals and what. So again, he's managed to get relief once again. He now spends his time hoping to meet Leena. Leena and Sukesh meet every Saturday as a part of their Mulaqat system, and we just now have to see how this case unfolds.
And what about the actresses? How have they been dealing with all this?
So the actresses have sort of like begun appearing at court. They've started recording their statements. They're mostly going to turn witnesses against Sukesh. And this is something that even Jacqueline is trying to do, where she wants to not be an accused in the case. And Pinky Irani's lawyers are also saying that, that Pinky Irani was promised a editor's job at Jaya TV and other news organizations, and that she thought she was going to be a CEO and she was just doing her job. So everyone has sort of like jumped out of the Sukesh ship, to say the least. They are all blaming Sukesh now. They say that he has duped us all. We were under some other impression and now we want to testify against Sukesh.
And Anand, as someone who has been tracking the story and who reports on crime, what is something that really stands out to you about this case?
Just the impossibility of it, because if you look at the biggest scams which are done by the conmen in the US, right? Because we make films, Leonardo DiCaprio, he starred in The Wolf of Wall Street, and there was also this other movie, Catch Me If You Can, they're just the biggest conmen, right? And people are just like astounded of how they managed to pull this off. I just think that Sukesh managed to beat them all by a mile for a very simple reason. He did this all sitting in jail. He did this all by having like the sway over jail staffers, over the other accused persons, just has the gift of the gab. He's just able to take on personas of officials, of IAS officers. I have never seen such a fascinating case as the one that Sukesh has managed to pull off.
You were listening to Three Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.